Hi guys, Ken Norberg here again. About to start part 3 of phase 4 of the Whitetail Rut. Now if you haven't seen part 1 or 2 yet, you better go back and watch them because these are all important. This is good stuff. This is kind of material that will help you to take a big buck or several of them in the coming years. So here we go. Okay, let's say while scouting early, you found a buck bedding area. It's a big one, you know, big buck that's using this area. Dynamite spot, unless you get that buck earlier, you know, like while breeding is in progress. That happens more now in my case, in our gang, because we've gotten to be very good at taking big bucks while breeding is in progress. But let's just say you haven't gotten them yet. And we're getting down to the last day or two when you plan to hunt. And how are you going to go about hunting that big buck at that hunting area? Well, there are a couple things you need to do now that you know where it is. Don't go near it. Don't walk into it. Stay away from it. Don't get your scent in that place at all. Actually, plan on approaching that during the hunting season from crosswind rather than downwind. The reason I say that is when the buck comes back, you want to go there while the buck's out feeding. Like say, gee, I don't have to get up early this morning. I can go to this place by this buck's bedding area. I can leave here at 8 o'clock, and that's going to be good because he won't be back till 9 or 10 or even 11 o'clock. I don't have to get there really early, but the best time to get there really is while the buck is gone. It's going to be extremely difficult to get there while the buck is there. So, while the buck is gone. So, and then when you go, always approach it from crosswind because the buck is always going to approach from downwind for reasons that we talked about earlier. So you want to be crosswind of that, but not too close. I mean, you can't get too chummy with where that buck's been laying because there's no deer in the woods that's better at identifying a stand hunter on the ground or in a tree. I mean, okay, let's say, oh, you just can't hunt stand hunt unless you're up in a tree in a portable stand. Well, put that portable stand up early if you can do it. It should be in the tree 2 weeks before the hunting season begins, 2 weeks before you plan to hunt, at least, no later than that. And you have to think a little bit. Gee, when do the winds mostly blow from which directions you're hunting? And in where I hunt, we very commonly have south winds, so southeast to southwest in the beginning, the first part in early November. That's pretty common for us. And toward the end of the week, then we'll start seeing winds from the west and northwest in that direction, sometimes north. We've been crossed up in some years by the wind blowing from the east the whole season, and that really made things rough for us. But anyway, think about that. Where do the winds usually blow from when you're hunting? And certainly you've been keeping track of that, and if you don't know, you can go to weather channel on your internet and go back a year and look for weather information records from the previous year and find a list there where the winds were blowing from. You can do that actually, so that'll help you. So what I would do if I was in your shoes, I would have at least 2 locations planning on a south wind, which means at one time I would be on, if you had a south wind at that buck bedding area, I'd want to be on the west or east side. Well, let's say you had a west wind, out to the west wind, and you'd want to be on the north or south side. So that way, no matter which direction the wind is blowing on those particular days, you could be crosswind of that bedding area. But you don't want to get too close because you know your scent is going to be spreading out as it goes downwind. And if it gets to the area where the buck is going to be coming from downwind, that's not good. So you want to keep back a ways. If you can, you should keep back ways, I would say at least 75 yards from where the buck is going to bed. 100 would be even better if you can see that area, into that area. So because of that spreading scent going downwind. So then you don't have to, if you go there, early in the morning and the buck's away, you don't have to be so worried about what kind of noise you're making, walking through the woods. Maybe you don't have the greatest approach path to your tree stand or where you plan to sit down with. Isn't going to be as important then. So anyway, get there early so you can't be seen, heard, or smelled getting there. And get in your tree stand, and then figure, oh boy, starting about 9 o'clock, you keep your eyes, ears sharp, because when he comes in, you won't see him. All of a sudden, there he is. It's going to be in there, in that area, and be very careful. If that buck's, any of his eyes are visible, don't move. When he turns his head or his head becomes hidden by intervening covers, that's the time to get your gun up. Shoot. A little hard to do as a bow hunter, a 75-yard shot is pretty far. I don't know if I'd take a chance on hunting a buck's bedding area during the bow season. It'd be much better to hunt other places. Maybe thinking, oh, he's going to come from the south, from downwind. You might want to be somewhere, crosswind from his downwind approach area. Maybe there's a trail that you know of down there and you could be on a trail. But then in that case, maybe you could be downwind or crosswind from that trail. That might help. When he leaves, he's going to go the other way into the wind when he leaves. That's the safest way to go when he goes, so you can plan on that. So he might be crosswind of where you think he might leave if he's leaving there. Now, my boys and I have taken a lot of bucks over the years using a special hunting technique. We call bucks in their bedding areas, or bucks with does while breeding is going on, midday or early afternoon. Actually go out midday, but it might be early afternoon. Sometimes it very quickly, but a bedded bucks in the bedding area, or a buck with a doe and estrus in the doe bedding area. And we use a technique we call the gentle nudge. The gentle nudge is a special hunting method. We call it the gentle nudge because it's a 2 or 3 man hunting technique. I'll get into greater detail in this separate YouTube presentation later on. But it takes at least 2 hunters to make it work. And boy, we've taken 10 big bucks in 10 years in a row using this technique, so it's a good one. Now, the way it works is this, briefly. Well, we have to have an upwind and a downwind hunter of where the deer is. And the downwind hunter goes in, he's got to be very good at moving through the woods without making sounds that will identify him as a hunter. And he'll get to a downwind position at least 100 yards away, unseen, unheard, unsmelled. Unsmelled is easy when you do it from downwind. Then about 15 minutes later, the upwind hunter goes in. Now this hunter is going to be smelled. He's going to be a good 100 yards upwind where that buck is located, or those deer. And he gets to a point where he's directly upwind of where he knows they are. And he sits down on his stool. We're stool hunters. We use backpack stools all the time to great advantage, and it's about the only way you can do it when you're using the gentle nudge. Now the reason we call it the gentle nudge is when he sits down, he's smelled by that deer. Oh, that buck knows you're there. And then pretty soon the buck can tell, gee, that smell is not increasing in intensity, meaning he's not moving nearer, and it's not decreasing, doesn't move, he's moving away. He's a stand hunter, and he's up there. And what you got is your scent spreading out downwind like this toward the buck. And it ends up being like a long fence line in the upwind direction. upwind of the buck. Well, when the buck finally decides it's time to move, yeah, it's time to go feed, go eat or something, or if he's with a doe in the doe bedding area, maybe the doe wants to breed now, they do most of their breeding in the bedding area. Anyway, when they move, they aren't going to come upwind. Oh no, there's a hunter up there, we don't want to go that way at all. And they can move over this way and they can smell me over that way and over that way. And maybe it seems like, gee, maybe there's a bunch of them over there. But we don't want to go that way. If I walked through the woods and tried to force that buck to run to that downwind hunter, the first thing that buck is going to want to do, and this is almost instinctive with whitetails, especially those with experience, any whitetail that's pushed downwind, whether by humans or wolves, knows there's going to be an ambush ahead. I don't want to be ambushed. Maybe there won't be an ambush ahead, but they think there will be. And so they're going to veer to the right or left and finally get running into the wind so they can avoid ambushes. So if I was walking toward the deer or sneaking even so he could hardly hear me, my scent's getting stronger, so that hunter's coming. I better get out of here. And so he'll go and he'll veer right or left and the guy downwind will never know what happened. When you sit down, you get the typical response of whitetails to a stand hunter. They might, he knows that's a dangerous hunter there, but I don't have to worry as long as he stays there. And I don't have to worry because I don't have to go into the wind to leave here. I can go the other way if I have to for a while. So they do. They'll go 100 yards or more downwind just to stay away from this hunter. And the downwind hunter gets it. So we give them a gentle nudge with human scent that convinces them the safe way to leave this place is go downwind. And the downwind hunter gets them. And we've had this work so many times. And so we love that technique. When the kids come into the camp and say, I found railroad tracks, during phase 3 of the rut. That's what we do. We set up upwind and downwind with the gentle nudge of doe bedding areas. The nearest doe bedding where the buck and doe are spending the middle of the day. And gee, we've taken so many deer that way. It's such a good way to hunt. Now, another thing, I should mention too, during that second week especially, when that buck is trailing a doe and it's young feeding, through this one feeding area, that's the feeding area where you want to be during, after a week for sure, maybe 4 or 5 days for sure. That buck is going to start feeding further and further away from his bedding area. And using other deer like radar, he'll be trailing in the tracks to feed of that doe and a young. And like I said, either with them or within sight, more likely within sight, or up to an hour later. I've taken bucks trailing that doe feeding during that period up to an hour later. While I used to sit in tree stands and go right under me. Gee, that was fun. But anyway, there again, you want to be downwind or crosswind or that feeding area. So make sure you do that. And in that case, if you go out there in the morning, you've got to be extra careful getting there. It would be nice to have a nice clean trail to follow to get there, and don't make a lot of noise when you're getting there because they're feeding early. They start at 4 in the morning. And then in the evening, of course, they don't start till about 4, a little earlier afterwards in the afternoon. So in that case, you can get out there in midday when they're not there and get set up. But anyway, that's where you hunt big bucks during phase 4 of the Whitetail Rut. So now you know everything about phase 4 and where to hunt bucks during that period. But we'll learn more when we get to Rut phase 5, which is coming up. And don't miss that. If you're a late season bow hunter or a muzzleloader hunter, you're going to want to know everything about this particular phase of the rut. See you guys. Thanks for watching.